Okay, so this is a kind of refresh of what you learned in 6th grade before we jump into the 7th grade skills. Last year in 7th or 6th grade, you learned how to solve equations, and you guys focused on one-step equations. The reason why they're called one-step equations is because there's only one operation in the problem. And so it took one step for you to solve. Now, when you're solving equations, the whole goal of solving equations is to get the variable, which is the letter, by itself. That means moving pieces around to where you isolate the variable, which means getting it by itself, okay? Let's recap real quick, though. When I'm trying to solve for equations or get the x by itself, I've got to think opposite operations. So if I see addition, I actually have to subtract. If I see subtraction, I have to add. Same thing for multiplication, division. If I see multiplication, I have to divide. If I see division, I have to multiply. So let's just jump right in. While we're doing this, you have to remember your integer rules that we covered that second week of school, and I'm going to refresh your memory on them as we go. So let's look at number 1. Okay, first things first, my goal is to get x by itself. Being that I want to, I'm going to make sure to, when I see this equal sign, I'm going to make sure I keep my left side separate from my right side. So we draw a line down the equal sign. It'll make sense here in a second. And my goal is to get x by itself. Well, look around the x. What is in the way of it getting by itself? Well, there's this plus 14 or positive 14. Well, if my goal is to move the 14 over or get it away from the x, I have to do the opposite of a positive 14, which means I'm going to subtract 14. Because think about it. What's a positive 14 and negative 14 make? It makes a 0, which is what you want to do. Here's the trick with this chapter, though. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So since I subtracted 14 on the left, I'm going to subtract 14 on the right. Now it looks like kind of like an addition problem, okay? X, I'm going to bring down, and then the 14 minus 14 equals 0, so they essentially cancel each other. And then right here, it's just a subtraction. What's 30 minus 14? And if you need to go off the side, make sure you do that, because I have to borrow, bring the 10. So it would be 16. Now, if you remember your integer rules, because one's positive, one's negative, we subtract. And since 30 is bigger, it's positive 16. So my answer is x equals 16. That's it. If I lost you, let's do that again. Number 2, again, my goal is to get y by itself this time. So I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign right here. If I'm trying to get y by itself, right now there's this 2 right here. Well, how do I move the 2 or get rid of the 2? Well, since it's positive 2, I have to do the opposite of positive 2, and I'm going to subtract 2. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So I'm going to do minus 2 on this side as well. Because think about it, 2 minus 2 is 0. So y, I'm going to bring down. Now, look right here. This is where you have to be careful, okay? Notice one's negative, one's negative. They're both negative. When they're both the same, do you remember what we did in week 2? Since they're both negative, we're actually going to add them together. 4 plus 2 is 6. And since they're both negative, my answer is also negative. So y equals negative 6 is my answer. Let's do that again. Number 3. This time the variable's on the right side, and that's okay. We're just going to keep it there and put my line down the equal sign. Well, this time we're trying to get k by itself. But if you look at it, it has this plus 6 over here. Well, what's the opposite of a positive 6? Minus 6. And what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. Now notice what happens to the 6's. They cancel because a positive 6 and a negative 6 make 0. Now look over here on the left. They're both negative. If you remember when I'm adding and subtracting, if they're both the same, that means I'm actually going to add them together. So 6 plus 6 is 12. And since they're both negative, my answer is negative 12. And k equals negative 12. Another one. Right here, going to draw the line down the equal sign. So right here, it is positive 8. Positive 8, which means I want to subtract 8 because I want that to 0 out, because 8 minus 8 is 0. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay. Now, one's positive, one's negative, so that means I'm actually going to subtract, not add. And 14 minus 8 is 6. Now, which one of these is bigger? The 14 is. And since the 14 is bigger and it's positive, my answer is positive 6. So there's adding and subtracting. Number 5. If I look at this one, draw the line down the equal sign. This time I'm going to get Q by itself. Well, notice right here, this time I see negative 10 or subtracting 10. Well, what's the opposite of subtracting 10? Adding 10. Because what is the opposite of subtracting 10? Adding 10. What's negative 10 plus 10 make? 0. So what I do to one side, I do to the other. So we're going to do plus 10 right there. And since they're both positive, I'm just going to add. 44 plus 10 is 54. And so Q equals 54. Number 6, draw your line down the equal sign. This time I want to get A by itself, but right now it has minus 3. Well, what's the opposite of subtracting 3? Adding 3. And since negative 3 plus 3 is 0, that zeroes out. What I do to one side, I do to the other. But pause right here, because one's negative, one's positive. That actually means I'm going to subtract. 15 minus 3 is 12. And since the 15 is bigger, my answer is negative 12. So it's those integer rules that we learned a few weeks ago. All right, number 7. Okay, so right here, I have W, but I have negative 4 right here. Well, what's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4, because I want that to zero out. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So we're going to add 4 on the other side. 19 plus 4 is 13. So W equals 13. Next one, number 8. Right here, I want to get P by itself. Well, right now, it's negative 3. Well, the opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Right here, negative 3 and positive 3 zero out, which is what you want it to do. Now, right here, be careful. Negative 18 and positive 3, they're both different, which means I'm actually going to subtract 18 minus 3, which is 15. Since 18 is larger, that means my answer is negative 15 because the 18 is larger. So P equals negative 15. So let's recap real quick. When I see addition or a positive, I'm going to subtract. When I see subtraction or a negative, I'm going to add. Following so far? Let's keep going. Number 9. Now, we've talked about this a little bit. Do you remember what it is when you have a number right next to another number? That's called multiplication. Well, think about the opposite. If I'm multiplying by 3, the opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So I'm going to make it look like a fraction. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that cancels out. And now I'm going to do 36 divided by 3. I'm going to do some mental math here. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 6 twice. So X equals 12. Let's do that again. Put the line down the equal sign. Right here is the letter M, but it's being multiplied by 9. Well, the opposite of multiplying by 9 is dividing by 9. Dividing by 9 on both sides, because 9 over 9 equals 1, which is why they cancel essentially. All right. You remember your triangles rules when I'm multiplying and dividing? I'll draw it for multiplying and dividing only. Okay. A negative divided by positive is a negative. Now 108 divided by 9. This is where I may want to do the ice cream cone like y'all learned last year. Okay, 9 doesn't go into 1, but it goes into 10 once with the remainder of 1. Bring down your 8. 9 goes into 18 twice. So 108 divided by 9 equals 12. And the negative divided by positive is a negative. So M equals 12, negative 12. All right, number 11. Draw a line down the equal sign. This is negative 10 times n. That's multiplication, not subtraction. When you have a number right next to a letter, that's multiplication. Well, the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 10. Notice I don't change the sign. I'm just going to divide by negative 10. So don't get it confused with adding and subtracting. All right, negative 10 over negative 10 is 1, so they cancel out. A negative divided by negative is a positive, and 50 divided by 10 is 5. So n equals positive 5. Number 12. Draw a line down the equal sign. We have negative 17 times x, which is multiplication. The opposite of multiplying is dividing, so I'm going to divide by negative 17. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Negative 17 over negative 17 cancel. So now I have a positive divided by negative, which is a negative, and 34 divided by 17 is 2, because 17 times 2 is 34. So x equals -2. Number 13. So that's multiplication going to division. Now let's talk about the last type. If I look at number 13, draw your line down the equal sign. No. Okay, so you draw your line down the equal sign, okay, and notice that it looks like a fraction. A fraction, you have to know, is just division. So this is dividing by 17. Well, the opposite of dividing by 17 is multiplying by 17. So I use a little dot. And what I do to one side, I do to the other, because the 17s essentially cancel on this side, and 17 times 3 is 51, and a positive times a positive is a positive 51. Next one, notice it looks like a fraction, but a fraction is just division. So if I'm dividing by -2, I'm going to multiply by -2. Don't ever change the sign when it's multiplying and dividing. And so a positive times a negative is a negative, and 16 times 2 is 32. So positive times a negative is negative. 16 times 2 is -32. Next one, again, it looks like division. The opposite of dividing by -8 is multiplying by -8. Okay, the -8s essentially cancel, and you think about the triangle. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 8 times 2 is 16. So y equals 16. Last one, I see dividing by -11, so the opposite is multiplying by -11. A positive times a negative is a negative, and we did an 11's quiz not too long ago. 11 times 10 is 110. Of negative times a positive and negative, so -110. So when you see addition, we're going to subtract. When you see subtraction, we're going to add. When you see multiplication, we're going to divide. And when you see division, we're going to multiply. Just think opposites.